I could hardly believe it when the HR representative smiled at me, her voice soothing yet distant as she uttered the words, "We're letting you go. Effective. Immediately." 15 years of dedication felt like dust in the wind, scattering into the chilly San Francisco air. My heart pounded as I slung my bag over my shoulder, an unsettling mix of disbelief and anger coursing through my veins. I stepped outside, the salty scent of the bay mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting from nearby shops. My feet carried me along the waterfront trail where the sound of seagulls echoed overhead, mixing with the light chatter of tourists nearby. The Golden Gate stood stoically in the distance, its vibrant red-orange hues contrasting against the grey clouds. As I walked, thoughts raced through my mind, each one darker than the last. How could they do this to me? I had sacrificed so much for that company. But little did they know, this was just the beginning of my plan, the first domino in a much larger scheme. As I reached a quiet spot by the water, my phone buzzed, breaking the melancholic rhythm of my thoughts. It was a message from Emily, an old colleague I hadn't spoken to in years. "Meet me at the usual spot. We have a lot to discuss." I hesitated only for a moment. Emily was the type of person who wasn't easily swayed by corporate noise. She had left the company after discovering its dark underbelly. I could use someone like her right now. Arriving at the little cafe down the alley, I found her seated at a corner table, her eyes sharp and determined. "I heard about your termination," she said, a hint of sympathy in her voice. "You're not just going to walk away from this, are you?" My heart raced. What had she heard? "I'm thinking of revoking the software license, the $800 million deal they've been counting on," I whispered, the gravity of the words sinking in. The look on her face shifted from concern to intrigue. "Jake, that's huge. You could take them down." A shiver ran down my spine, a mix of excitement and fear. What if this could lead to exposing the corruption I suspected? But I also knew the risk. If we failed, would there be any coming back? As I left the cafe, the wind shifted, and with it came a sense of impending storm. Questions swirled in my mind. Would Simon retaliate? What lay ahead in this perilous journey I was about to embark upon? Before I went any further into this tangled web of vengeance and justice, let me take a moment to remind you, if you're enjoying this story, it's a good time to check if you're subscribed to our channel. YouTube tends to unsubscribe people without notice, so ensure you hit that button and give us a thumbs up to keep the story going. Now, back to this thrilling transformation unfolding before me. As I took my first steps into this chaotic world of corporate intrigue, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Was it just paranoia, or was someone tailing me? The stakes were rising, and the real game was just beginning. I could see the sleeker edge of San Francisco's skyline as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber hue over the bustling streets. I was fueled by a potent cocktail of resolve and defiance. The weight of Emily's words lingered in my mind. Could my plan truly disrupt the empire that Simon had built? I made my way to my apartment, thoughts racing faster than my feet. The walls of my modest place felt like a fortress for my secrets, yet they also felt constricting, stifling my next move. That night, as I pored over my old notes and documents, piecing together the intricate web of contracts and fatal flaws within the software license agreements, a sense of clarity washed over me. I recalled meetings where numbers seemed inflated, their promises wrapped in the illusion of security. Did I really know the full extent of their corruption? As I dissected the details, the magnitude of what I was potentially about to unleash became apparent. It was not just a matter of the company's finances. It was about standing up against an insatiable appetite for greed. The next morning, adrenaline buzzed through my veins as I met Emily again. In her eyes, I found an unspoken alliance. "I've been gathering intel, Jake. There are more people willing to help. We're not alone in this. Her enthusiasm ignited a spark of optimism in me, a thread connecting two souls unwilling to let fear dictate our fate. "What's our first move?" I asked, feeling the tides of change shift beneath our feet. "I've set up a meeting with a few former employees at a coffee shop. They're wary but ready. They want to take down Simon as much as you do," she replied, a glint of hope shimmering in her eyes. The plan felt haphazard but exhilarating. As we walked into the cafe, I noticed a corner booth filled with anxious faces, each person shaded with a layer of doubt. But in their eyes, a smoldering desire for change flickered. Little did I know, betrayal could be lurking just beyond our reach, waiting to turn the tides against us. Just as we settled in, a loud voice boomed from the entrance. Simon himself had chosen that moment to stride in, oblivious to the storm brewing in the back of the cafe. My heart raced. Would this be my moment to expose him? Or would it spur an uncontrollable avalanche that could bury us all? To be continued. But before we dive into the next part of this gripping saga, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what comes next. Trust me, the best is yet to come. The air felt electric as I stared at Simon from across the cafe, his presence crashing into my whirlwind of thoughts. I could practically feel the collective tension building in the room, the sense that we were all on the precipice of something monumental. My pulse quickened. This was no longer just about revoking a software license. It was an outright declaration of war against the empire he'd built. Emily leaned in, her voice a soft urgency. "Jake, we can't let him see us. We need to play this smart." As she spoke, a plan began to form in the back of my mind, instinctively blending the pieces of our fight. The group around us was small, but resilient. If we could leverage this meeting, we could finally shine a light on the murky depths of corruption that Simon tried to keep hidden. I took a breath, forcing myself to focus. We need to gather everything we can, contracts, emails, anything that points to wrongdoing. This meeting could change the game. My heart raced with the recklessness that only comes when chasing justice, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As Simon moved closer to our booth, I felt an instant heaviness settle in the room. His laughter boomed, drowning out the muffled conversations. It was the laugh of a man who believed he was untouchable, and every echo felt like a challenge. I shifted my attention back to the table. "We don't have much time before he leaves. Let's get the intel organized." In hushed tones, we exchanged snippets of information, each revelation piercing through the fear like a dagger of determination. Just as our discussion intensified, Simon unexpectedly turned on his heel, glancing in our direction. My heart plummeted. Did he see us? Was he onto our plans? Emily's grip tightened around her coffee cup, eyes darting nervously. "Stay calm. If he approaches, act normal." A chorus of uncertainty swirled around us as we fell quiet, tension slicing through our camaraderie like a razor. But deep down, something began to shift within me. This wasn't just about seeking revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my voice in an industry that had silenced so many. As Simon resumed chatting nearby, I locked eyes with Emily, conveying unspoken resolve. We were still in this together, and we wouldn't let fear dictate our next move. Just then, I received a message that shattered my focus. "Meet me at the office. I have something you need to see." The tension morphed into a new kind of urgency. Was this the breakthrough we had been waiting for? Or a setup that could lead us straight into Simon's trap? As the gravity of my choices weighed on me, the stakes escalated. Would I risk everything to meet with this mystery contact, potentially jeopardizing our fragile alliance? The winds of change were howling, and I could feel the storm brewing. Before I could decide, Emily broke the silence, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Jake, Whatever happens next, remember we're in this together. We'll fight for what's right." With her words resonating in my mind, the need for action drowned out the doubts. But just as I was about to respond, an unexpected figure slipped in through the door. Someone I never expected to see again. Someone who could be the wild card in our brewing conflict. Who were they, and what did they know about Simon's empire? Stick around because the next chapter is about to unfold. Remember to hit that button and stay tuned for the thrilling twist that could change everything. As the door creaked open, I squinted through the early morning light filtering into the cafe, my heart racing as recognition washed over me. It was in that fleeting moment of stunned disbelief that I realized this was no ordinary visitor. It was Alice, the former head of software development, and a ghost from my past. The quick, short breaths that escaped my lips fanned the pent-up anxiety in the room. She hadn't just vanished from the corporate scene, she disappeared entirely, leaving rumors of corporate sabotage swirling in her wake. "Is that Alice?" Emily whispered, breaking my trance. "Yeah," I murmured, barely able to keep the shock from my voice. "But why is she here? And how did she know to find me now?" Alice surveyed the cafe, her bright blue hair catching the sunlight like an old flame igniting once more in a dark room. It had been years since we'd last spoken, but I remembered our late-night brainstorming sessions, the beeping of machines in the lab, and the hours spent lost in lines of code. But that was before the scandal broke, before she faded into the shadows, leaving behind a trail of questions that had haunted me since. As she approached, the nervous energy in our booth crackled. I couldn't shake the feeling that her presence could shift the balance of our plan. But would it be for better or worse? "I need to talk to you, now," she said, urgency etched into her features. The way she held herself conveyed she was not here for pleasantries. "Sure," I replied cautiously. "Let's step outside." Emily looked between us but didn't object. She knew as well as I did that if Alice had important information, we couldn't afford to hesitate. The cafe's atmosphere felt suffocating with tension as we slipped through the door into the chilled air outside. "What do you have?" I asked, keeping my tone low. "I overheard something critical. They're planning on rolling out a new feature based on data gathered without valid user consent. And Simon's been in the thick of it," she confessed, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "This data could put millions of users at risk, and if it goes public, it could derail everything." My mind raced at the implications. Would this be our tool to cripple Simon's empire? "But why are you telling me this now?" I questioned, probing for motives. She paused, her face a mask of conflict. "Because I want back in," Alice admitted. "I was wrong for leaving. I watched from the sidelines while I trusted you all to figure it out. But now I see it. The corruption has grown too deep, and I can't stand back any longer." It struck me how this desperate plea mirrored my own, our shared desire for redemption. "If we're going to do this, we need to gather more evidence," I said, glancing back into the cafe, the weight of our meeting pressing down on me. "We need information that ties Simon to these actions beyond just hearsay. If you have any documentation or access to internal communications." Alice's eyes sparkled with resolution. "I might still have access to the server remotely. I can get you the files that would solidify our case." Emily joined the conversation, her enthusiasm bubbling forth. "This could be huge. If we can tie Simon directly to illegal activities, it will sway public opinion. We can rally support against him." But as excitement bubbled between us, a nagging doubt lingered at the back of my mind. Could I trust Alice? The last time I saw her, I felt betrayed by the circumstances that led her to vanish, abandoning our team to face the fallout. "You're serious about this? You're willing to help?" My voice came out harsher than I intended, Her shoulders slumped slightly, as if my skepticism had landed a blow. "I know I haven't earned your trust, but I'm in, Jake. Let's take him down together." With the weight of that shared mission hanging between us, I felt a surge of hope. But part of me still wondered if dragging her back into the fray might lead to more problems than solutions. And as I caught Emily's glance of silent encouragement, I knew we couldn't back down. We were standing on the edge of a precipice, and the winds were about to change direction. "All right," I finally conceded, feeling the rhythm of resolve pulse. "Let's move quickly then." "What do you need from us to get started?" "I'll need a few hours," Alice replied, her voice taking on a determined edge. "Meet me back here. I have a plan." With that, she disappeared back toward the cafe, leaving Emily and me to contemplate the unfolding chaos. The stakes had skyrocketed, and in the uncertain silence, trepidation mingled with anticipation. As we stood outside, the sun stood high, illuminating the bustling streets around us. My mind was racing, but beneath the uncertainty was something unmistakable. Determination to ensure our fight wasn't in vain. "This could blow up in our faces, Jake," Emily voiced tentatively, as if sensing my excitement. "But it could also be our chance to expose the truth," I replied, steeling myself. "If we play this right, we can make a real impact." The exhilarating thought lingered as I considered the enormity of Alice's information. This wasn't just about revoking a software license anymore. It was about uncovering the vile core of an empire built on deceit. As the clock ticked onward, the gravity of our situation felt sharper. What lay ahead was still a mystery, one filled with potential traps and the looming shadow of betrayal. Just when things seemed to skew in one direction, the game could change at a moment's notice. Just then, my phone buzzed again, the unfamiliar number quickly sending a shiver down my spine. "Meet me in the alley behind your office at noon. You're in over your head." A new wave of dread washed over me as I exchanged a glance with Emily. "What now?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "We need to go," she urged, her voice pitched with urgency. "We can't ignore this." As we began to walk toward my old workplace, adrenaline surged through my veins. What awaited us could either lead to our downfall or give us the final piece of the puzzle we desperately needed. This constant dance around the truth felt increasingly perilous, and I knew each step forward could either lead to clarity or chaos. Would we collect enough to protect ourselves against Simon's inevitable retaliation? I stared down the street, vision blurred by possibilities. With Alice's return, the dynamics had shifted dramatically. Confronted with the echoes of betrayal, I had to decide who I could trust. As we rounded the corner, the weight of our choices pressed heavily as we edged closer to an encounter shrouded in mystery. Stay tuned for the next chapter, because what happens next could shatter everything we thought we knew. Do you have your notifications turned on? You won't want to miss the unraveling secrets just around the corner. As the noon sun hung high overhead, casting long shadows, I found myself standing in the alley behind the office I had once called home. My heart thudded like a drum in my chest. Every instinct screamed that we were walking into a potential trap. Emily stood on my right, her expression a mix of determination and trepidation. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "With what we've uncovered, we don't have a choice," I murmured, trying to summon a semblance of confidence. The chill of uncertainty prickled at the back of my neck, but the nagging urge to confront the truth spurred me on. Just then, footsteps echoed from behind a dumpster. An unkempt figure emerged, an old acquaintance from my past, a whistleblower named Tom. He had gathered the courage to expose Simon's shady dealings, but it had cost him everything. "You're in deep, Jake," he remarked, his eyes darting nervously. "Simon has ears everywhere. Trust no one." "Then why are you here?" I pressed, curiosity outweighing caution. I came to offer you evidence, emails, recordings. Dave, the intern, was leaking information to us. He's in Simon's inner circle now. If you play your cards right, you can outmaneuver him and take down some serious corruption, Tom explained, producing a flash drive from his pocket. I reached out, my fingers trembling slightly as I grasped the drive. This was the breakthrough we needed, concrete proof of wrongdoing. But we're under surveillance. We have to be careful, I reminded myself, the weight of our plan pressing heavily upon my shoulders. Meet me back at the cafe, Emily said, resolve hardening in her stance. We can sort through this together. I nodded, stealing one last look at Tom as he melted away into the shadows. The thrill of confrontation intertwined with the fear of retribution as I walked back toward the cafe, clutching the drive tightly. What lay ahead would require every ounce of bravery still within me. As we gathered around a secluded table once more, I shared what Tom had given us. Emily's eyes widened as she absorbed the explosive potential of the evidence we held. We need to publicize this, expose them before they can act against us, she insisted. Suddenly, the door swung open and in strode Simon, his presence casting an unavoidable shadow on our plans. My heart sank as I spotted Alice, stealthily arriving from another entrance, her eyes locked onto mine. This was it, the moment of reckoning. We could either plunge ahead and reveal the truth or retreat into the shadows of fear forever. As Simon's chilling gaze swept the room, I knew it was time to finalize our move. Our future depended on unity, courage, and the pursuit of what was just. Now or never, I declared, a fierce determination weaving through my words. Let's do this, Emily affirmed, pulling out her phone, ready to stream live. Together we rose, the air thick with tension as we prepared to unearth the darkness lurking in Simon's empire. If this didn't work, it could indeed spell our demise. But if it did, we would change everything. Perhaps not just for ourselves, but for countless others who had suffered beneath Simon's reign. As we stepped forward, I turned to you, the viewers. If you believe in standing up against injustice, then hit that subscribe button and support our story. Join us as we uncover the truth that could shake the very foundations of the tech world. The time for silence has passed. Together, let us illuminate the darkness.